Hello everyone, Hazefest here. Got another video for AutoHotKey. I did some deep diving and research into AutoHotKey for Dark Age of Camelot, and I did a lot of testing with the scripting. We have changed up the scripting quite a bit, and I've rolled everything into a 2.0 version, so all my videos I'm going to go back through, and in the links I'm going to update all my scripts, and in the descriptions I'm going to update all my scripts so that they work a little bit better for you. And I'll go through what I learned about send input, and things like that. And we completely did away with SetKeyDelay because it was against Phoenix rules. So we're going to rework the scripts a little bit, and I'll show you how to do that. And I'll walk through, I'll show you an old version, and then I'll show you the new version. So let's get to it. Okay, so on the video up here in the top left, we have the old version of the script, this here. Now, the things that we have changed, okay, so I went back into Phoenix forums and I did some deep diving because one of the users that commented on one of our videos has shown some concerns, and he was right. So what he wanted to bring to my attention was this line here, SetKeyDelay. This line we do not want. So we'll just, if you have that in my previous scripts, if you've downloaded from my original videos, we're going to remove this. This is no longer a thing. So just delete, get rid of it. If you just want to copy and paste, if you use my exact same hotkeys, you can just go into the video description below. There's a link there that has a Google Drive with all of my hotkeys on it, all my scripts. So if you want to just use my scripts, you can. But if you use your own, go into your script and remove that SetKeyDelay line. And I'm going to show you what you can do with your send information as well. We're going to condense everything, make it a little bit more crisper, and make it a lot neater, as you can see over here on the right. So, other things that I learned after getting rid of the key delay is that the send command actually has a built-in key delay of 10 milliseconds, which is okay. I mean, that's so close to zero, it doesn't really matter. And I'll show you why we want to keep this over SendInput. And I'll do some testing in the game so I can show you what that looks like and the difference between and what they do, so that you can make a decision on your own accord to see which is better for you, because some people are going to use certain keys that it will work really well for SendInput, and then there'll be some keys that work really well for just send. There's a difference between the two. Let's go ahead and get rid of the old version. So as you can see, we have on the old version, we have the name of the script. We have our big block here for if Dark Age of Camelot is running, the script is running. And if Dark Age of Camelot closes or crashes, the script no longer works, which is fine. We'll keep that in there. This part here is how to suspend and resume your script. So if I pushed the plus sign is shift and then P, if I did shift P, this script would stop working. And when I push shift P again, it will begin working again. That's if I want to type a long message without having a bunch of gibberish. I would do shift P and then I could type my message and then shift P to turn it back on. And after that, we have this string. A string is the little semicolon here down to return. Everything in between here is all the same. And if you look on the new 2.0 version, you'll see that this is condensed down into just 3 lines, which is much nicer. And I'll go over a little bit more about that in a bit. And each one of these strings is a hotkey, which is the 2 semicolons here. Any text in front is the hotkey or string of keys that you'll press to activate this line of text. And yeah, it was very long. It was very interesting, to say the least, but I found a way to condense it, and I did a lot of testing in game with my characters to see if it would work better for me if I did it with send inputs. And doing send inputs caused a lot more problems than it fixed. So let's go ahead and get rid of the old script. Okay, so now we're left with this 2.0 script that I've been working on. Before we get too far into the 2.0, let me go over SendInput. So what is SendInput? So if I duplicate this line and I change it to SendInput, and we'll change this to button number 6. Okay, we'll change the hotkey 6. So if I push 6, it'll execute this line. Put a space to make it look nice. Save. And then we'll run it as an administrator. Yes. Okay, let's look at the game here. Now, SendInput is different than send. What do I mean? Well, let me show you. Okay, so SendInput, it's this information right here. What it means is thus. SendInput is generally the preferred method to send keystrokes and mouse clicks because of superior speed and reliability. Under most conditions, SendInput is nearly instantaneous, even with sending long strings. Since the input is so fast, it is more reliable because there is less opportunity for some other window pop up unexpectedly or intercept of keystrokes. Reliability is further improved by the fact that anything the user types during a SendInput is postponed until afterwards. So if you have something that's like 20 seconds long, if you type and buffer stuff, it'll send it afterwards. With our scripts, we don't have to worry about that because it's a fraction of a second. With SendInput, you can send about 5,000 characters, and this may depend on the operating system's version and performance settings. The characters and events beyond this limit are not set. So a big important note about SendInput is the note here. SendInput ignores SetKeyDelay because the operating system does not support a delay in this mode. Okay, now that's important because when you press your key, it's gonna regurgitate the line of text that you put after it. That means if you have control modifiers, alt modifiers, shift modifiers, Windows modifiers, those have a very high chance to not fire. In the script testing that I did, SendInput ignored control modifiers, alt modifiers, and it completely screwed up anything that I tried to use a control, shift, or alt function with. It works really well for individual key presses such as Q, X, F1, input, single key presses, not requiring two keys like Control F1 or Control E or Shift E. None of those were working properly. So SendInput is great if you're only using single keystrokes with your keybinds, okay? Very important. If you're using single keystrokes for your keybinds, meaning if you hit 3 on your keyboard and it executes X, Y, Z with no shift or alt modifiers, it will fire properly every time. If you get complex with it and you do Control F1, Control F12, Shift 8, crazy stuff like that, anything like with a modifier, it's going to cause a problem. Okay? So SendInput is good for single keybind keys, but if you have anything like 2 or more buttons, it's not going to work, which is why I say we use send. Now, what is send? Before we get to send, let's go ahead and finish this out. SendInput reverts the send event, which we're not ever going to use, to this use a SetKeyDelay -1, which is no delay, and 0, unless send event's key delay is -1, -1, in which case -1, -1 is used. None of that really matters for what we do. Send itself. Where is send? Okay, I've been searching for a little while about send, which is the command that we're using. also in the forums as well as the AutoHotKey manual online. Now, what I've found is this information right here is the closest thing I could find. So apparently there is a 10 millisecond delay that is after the send event. Well, we don't use send event, which is actually where is it? We don't use send event. We use just send, which is this right here. By default, send is synonymous with send event, but it can be made a synonym with, or for send input and send play via send mode, which we don't use any of that. So if it is the same as send event, the set key delay right here, time in milliseconds, which an expression, use of -1 for no delay and 0 for the smallest possible delay. If set key delay is never used by a script, the default delay for the traditional send event is 10 milliseconds. That's as close as we can find to what this is saying. So we're not using a delay, but there's a built-in delay automatically. So I think this is fine because the testing that I've done, the script that's on the screen here, let's pull it over. We use send. I've tried send and send input, and I'll show you the difference. Okay, I've copied this string here at the top, and I've copied it down here. The only difference is send versus send input, and I changed the button press so that I can press 2 different keys to execute the same string and show you the difference. So let me go ahead and show you what this looks like. So what I've discovered doing a lot of testing in Dark Age of Camelot is that send with no key delay in our script, we have no key delay at the top. So all the send is going to do is it's going to put a 10 millisecond buffer or sleep in between each key press, which that's 0.001 of a second, I believe. Right? Let me just verify that. So yes, that is correct. That means in between each key press, it is 0.001 of a second. You will never even notice, okay? But the game will notice, and I'll show you what I mean. So in the game, if I click on the enemy and I do a send input with my 6 button here, we're executing this part right here. Okay, it's identical to the crit shot up top. We're just going to push 6. What should happen is I should pull my bow out, crit shot, I should release automatically, and I should reload automatically. Let's see what happens. I've clicked the enemy, I hit 6. I pull my bow out, and I fire automatically. Cool. Except it never registers the last button press. It never registers to fire and reload. So now I'm going to do the same exact thing with my mouse button up top, and we'll see if there's a difference. So click on the enemy. I will now automatically release my shot, and I will reload. Okay, now let me do the send input again. This is going to be send input. So I click on the enemy, and I'm just going to hit the button over and over again. As you can see at the bottom, it never makes it to reload my shot. Okay, there's like a 3% chance, boom, there it is, that it actually goes off as intended. Well, you're not going to want to sit there and spam to get it right when you're trying to fire at a player, okay? You're just not going to do that. So I found that send input is very unreliable when it comes to button presses. Now, this string that we're trying to use with SendInput, it doesn't even have any control modifiers, shift modifiers, alt modifiers. It's only single key presses. And yet it fails a vast majority of the time when you use it. Now, if I use my crit shot send instead of SendInput, I can spam this every time. Reloads, 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 reloads. Every single time it reloads, it's guaranteed to reload every time. Now, if I swap back to the SendInput version, you might get a reload every 20th attempt. So I don't recommend using SendInputs for long strings or for strings that have control alt or shift modifiers. What I recommend is that you use send. Since we don't have a key delay in the script, we'll just use whatever the built-in key delay is. I don't see the problem with that because that's not something that you put in. That's just part of the program, right? That's something that if you didn't know about the 10 millisecond delay, it's never going to bother you. And I don't think it's a big deal because it's technically not a delay. It's just part of the AutoHotKey string. The single key presses for things like just swapping to a weapon and hitting a single key does work. Like so. This right here was what I was trying to execute. And this is what I mean with send being superior to SendInput. So I'm going to copy this string and we'll put it here. All right, and then we'll make this button 6. And we'll put in SendInput. All right, so it's the exact same string. The only difference is I put input here. So SendInput ignores key delay. Now, when you ignore key delay, there is no key delay between control and F3, right? So how do you, when you execute the string, how does it know to use control with F3? So what it does is it presses B, control F3, control F2, control F1. There is no holding the control button while it presses F3. So now when I file and save this and I run it as an administrator, okay, I come over here, all I'm going to do is push 6. All it does is try to use the shimmering fortified rapier. This is the issue that I was running into earlier. So this absolutely fails because it doesn't know to hold the control button while doing F3. Now, there is a built-in delay with send that's the default command. So when I press 3, this is going to execute properly and use Bloody Dance, Puncture, and the repost styles. So I'm going to hit the button 3. It actually fires off a style. Hit 3 again. Hit 3 again. So it just cycles through Puncture and Bloody Dance. Since I don't block against the dummy, it never sends off repost. So we can see that 3 works. Okay. Now if we swap back to using 6, all it does is try to use the weapon because all it registers is B. F3, F2, and F1 do nothing on their own. So all that's really triggering here is B, the first button press. Because it's pressing B, control, F3, control, F2, control, F1. It doesn't know to do hold control F3. It doesn't hold control and do F2. It only does F3, control, F2, control. It teeters back and forth. It doesn't actually know to hold the input down. So send, as far as I can tell, works way better for this game. What you would have to do is do some really crazy coding to get this string to work with SendInput, because you'd have to put in like a delay for the control modifier. You'd have to put that in manually. I think it's just so much easier to use send, even though there is a built-in delay. You wouldn't normally know that unless you read through the AutoHotKey manual. I think the forums won't care that you use AutoHotKey because they don't see how you're doing all your inputs, right? They'll know if there's a delay based on information from the server. If there's a consistent delay, right, between your key presses every single time. But if you're just using a key to input 4 commands through keybinds, I don't think it's going to be a big deal. Okay. So as long as you're using single key presses and not Control Alt and Shift modifiers, SendInput works fine. But once you start running out of keys on your keyboard to do keybinds because of all your hotkeys in the game, and then all your keybinds, outside of the hotkeys, you're going to start running out of keys. Even though there's a bunch of keys on the keyboard, there's not enough to use for very complex scripts like the ones that I do. So I think send is completely fine. I don't think you're going to get hit by the ban hammer if you just use send, because there's 99% of the players out there using this command. They're not all using send inputs, but if you really want to be a stickler about it, if you really want to follow the rules, to the T, just don't put a set key delay at the top like I had on the old scripts. I'm going to get rid of all that myself. I've updated all the scripts currently with SendInput, but I think I'm going to roll that back after doing some in-game testing, and I'm going to set everything back to send because that is the most consistent and easy way by far to play using AutoHotKey. As long as there's no set key delay, the send command by itself, by default, should be more than enough to get you by. So yeah, I was just doing some testing for about an hour or two, and I just wanted to share my findings. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and update all my scripts on all my videos, and I'm going to update the scripts on my Google Drive so that everything is just using send. And if you want to use SendInput, just make sure that you don't have any Control, Shift, or Alt modifiers. You're going to have to go deep into AutoHotKey to figure out how to use those with SendInput. And even if you do use SendInput, you're still going to have to manually put in some sort of delay for holding down the control modifier. So I don't think it's really worth it. I think it's just using send is the easiest way. Let's just keep it simple. Just use send. All right, in closing. So what I recommend is if you are using the script, just go in to the top portion. If you're using one of my scripts that's not 2.0 at the top, it says the names, Scout 2.0, you should be good. But if you look in the section that has the return use hook information and the if window active, if you see a set key delay in there, just highlight it and delete that line. It'll save you some issues. Again, I don't think you're ever going to get caught unless someone reports you. That's, if you share this information with somebody and then they're like, hey, that guy's cheating. That's about the only way you're going to get caught. But just be on the safe side, just delete your set key delay. And then in your strings with all your button presses and your keybinds, just go in and set all those to send if they're not already send. And make sure you go and save your file and then rerun it as an administrator, and it'll just pop in immediately and take over. And that should solve that problem. But if you're using one of my scripts with my hotkeys, you should be able to just go into the description below and pull it from my Google Drive or in the video description, because I'm going to update all those descriptions today. So if you have any questions about AutoHotKey, if you have any concerns, just drop it in the comments. I usually get back to people within a couple hours. I check it a few times a day. So if you have any concerns, just let me know. We'll discuss it. If I need to pop up and do a video and demonstrate something, or do a certain class, I still want to do an archer archetype, and I still want to do a tank or melee archetype, and build out the scripts for those using this new Script 2.0 system, and show you the differences there. Again, to all of my subscribers that have been with me this far, thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys coming in and dropping your thank yous and your comments and your feedback, especially if you make fun of me in the video. I think that's fine too. But as long as you guys learn something, that's what really matters. This is for your benefit and people and the guild members that you hang out with and things like that. If you can't explain it, and if you can't help them figure it out, send them to me, or send them to my videos, and we'll figure it out together. Worst case scenario, I have a Discord. If you need to get some extra help, I can help you one-on-one and help you build out a script if need be. I've done it for several other people. Just get a hold of me. We'll set a time that works for both of us, and we'll figure it out. Or if you want to get like a bunch of your guildies together and have questions, we can all sit down together and figure it out. But yeah, it's interesting. AutoHotKey has opened up my gaming in Dark Age of Camelot. It made everything a lot better. Even PvE, if you're leveling a new character, it makes it so smooth. Makes it so easy, especially for like archers, when you can just click on something, hit one button, and you're already crit shotting and then, knocking another arrow. That's super easy, and then all you're doing is hitting another button after that, and you're good to go. So, yeah, there's a lot of things you do in the game that you could use AutoHotKey for that you don't think about. If you do the same thing over and over and over again, you can just condense that to one key press usually, and makes quality of life go way up. Anyway, I'm Hazefest. Thank you for watching. Drop a follow. You can catch me on twitch.tv/Hazefest. I usually play a variety of games, and I'm pretty much stuck in Path of Exile right now. I know. Anyway, I appreciate you guys being here. It really means a lot, and yeah, hope to see you later.